The glass tower of Apex Dynamics loomed over Austin's tech corridor, its sleek facade reflecting the Texas sunrise. Inside, the headquarters buzzed with the hum of ambition coders hunched over laptops, executives barking into earpieces, and baristas steaming oat milk for $7 lattes in the lobby cafe. It was March 2025 in Apex. A rising star in AI-driven logistics, was riding a wave of venture capital and hype. But beneath the polished surface, the company was a pressure cooker of egos, deadlines, and unspoken hierarchies. At 5:30 a.m., before the first employees trickled in, Javier Morales pushed a cleaning cart through the 17th floor. At 42, Javier was a wiry man with calloused hands and deep-set eyes that held stories he rarely shared. His Navy janitor's uniform was faded, his sneakers scuffed from years of night shifts. His dark hair was streaked with gray, pulled back under a worn baseball cap. To the executives who barely glanced at him, he was invisible, a cog in the machine that kept their marble floors gleaming. Javier hummed a soft melody, a mix of Spanish bolero and Somali folk. As he mopped the conference room, he moved with quiet precision, his mop strokes rhythmic, almost meditative. The room was a shrine to Apex's success, glass walls etched with buzzwords like disrupt and scale, a mahogany table littered with Red Bull cans from last night's brainstorming session. Javier paused, noticing a crumpled memo on the floor. He picked it up, scanning it briefly. Project Synergy Multilingual AI Interface. $50 million contract. Deadline in 90 days. His lips twitched. Not quite a smile. Before he tossed it into his trash bin. As he worked, a phone rang from the executive suite down the hall. Javier ignored it, but the ringing persisted, sharp and insistent. Sighing, he set down his mop and walked toward the sound. The suite belonged to Ethan Caldwell, Apex's 35-year-old CEO, a Silicon Valley transplant with a Harvard MBA and a reputation for ruthless brilliance. The door was ajar, the phone blaring on a sleek desk. Javier hesitated, then stepped inside and picked it up. "Hola," he said, his voice soft but clear. A rapid-fire voice responded in Mandarin, urgent and clipped. Javier's eyes narrowed, and without missing a beat, he replied in fluent Mandarin, his tone calm but firm. "Please hold. I'm not the person in charge, but I can take a message." The caller, clearly confused, switched to Arabic, demanding to speak to Caldwell. Javier seamlessly shifted to Arabic. His words precise, "Mr. Caldwell isn't here, but I can relay your message." The conversation spiraled French, Portuguese, Swahili, Russian, Hindi, German, each language met with Javier's effortless fluency. By the time he hung up, he'd left a detailed voicemail in English for Caldwell, summarizing a supplier's concerns about a delayed shipment in Shanghai. He scribbled a note in neat handwriting, taped it to the desk, and returned to his cart, unaware that the suite's security camera had captured every word. Ethan Caldwell arrived at 700 mm, his tailored suit crisp, his blonde hair gelled into a perfect wave. He was a man who thrived on control. His days a blur of pitch decks and power lunches. Apex was his empire. But Project Synergy was its crown jewel, a multilingual AI that could translate and negotiate in real time, poised to dominate global logistics. The project was stalled, plagued by buggy code and a team of engineers who couldn't crack the nuances of cross-cultural communication. Ethan stormed into his suite, coffee in hand, and froze when he saw the note on his desk. Supplier in Shanghai called. Urgent shipment delayed due to customs issue. Needs your approval to reroute via Singapore. Details in voicemail, Javier. Janitor. His brow furrowed. A janitor answering his phone. He checked the security footage, expecting a breach, but what he saw stopped him cold. There, on the grainy feed, was Javier, speaking 9 languages with the ease of a UN interpreter. Ethan replayed it, his jaw tightening with each switch, Mandarin to Arabic, Swahili to Hindi. "Who the hell is this guy?" he muttered, zooming in on Javier's face. The man's eyes were sharp, his posture relaxed. Nothing like the invisible worker Ethan had passed 100 times without a glance. Ethan called HR, his voice clipped. "Pull the file on Javier Morales, now." The HR director, Priya Sharma, a sharp woman with a knack for cutting through corporate noise, delivered Javier's file within the hour. It was thin, almost laughably so. Hired 3 years ago, 18 per hour, no complaints, no promotions. Address in East Austin. A working-class neighborhood, no college degree. No listed skills beyond reliable. Priya frowned as she handed it over. "He's a ghost." Ethan keeps his head down, does his job. Why the interest? Ethan didn't answer, his mind racing. He'd built Apex on spotting talent engineers from MIT, linguists from Stanford, but this a janitor with polyglot skills? It was either a goldmine or a security risk. He ordered Priya to summon Javier to his office at noon, then leaned back, replaying the footage again. Something about Javier's calm, the way he navigated each language, felt like a challenge to Ethan's carefully curated world. Javier was wiping down a break-room microwave when Priya found him. "Mr. Caldwell wants to see you," she said, her tone neutral but curious. Javier's hand paused mid-wipe, his eyes flickering with something worry. Maybe. Or calculation. "Did I do something wrong?" he asked, his voice low. "Not that I know of," Priya replied, studying him. Noon. His office. "Don't be late." Javier nodded, returning to his task. But his mind churned. He'd kept his past buried for a reason. Born in El Paso to Mexican immigrants. He'd grown up straddling borders, learning Spanish and English by necessity. His teenage years were spent in refugee communities, picking up Arabic and Somali from neighbors, French and Portuguese from aid workers. A knack for languages led him to a linguistics program at UT Austin. But a family crisis, his mother's illness, forced him to drop out. He'd bounced between jobs ever since, landing at Apex when his savings ran dry. The janitor gig was steady, invisible, safe. Now, he sensed that safety slipping. At noon, Javier stood outside Ethan's office, his uniform pressed as best he could manage. He knocked once, and Ethan's voice barked, "Come in." The office was a monument to success, floor-to-ceiling windows, a view of Austin's skyline, and a desk that cost more than Javier's yearly salary. Ethan stood, his arms crossed. The security footage paused on a monitor behind him. "Javier Morales," he said, his tone unreadable. "You're quite the linguist." Javier's stomach dropped, but he kept his face neutral. "I just answered the phone, sir. Didn't mean to overstep." "Overstep," Ethan laughed, sharp and humorless. "You spoke 9 languages like it's nothing. Mandarin, Swahili, Russian. Where'd you learn that?" Javier hesitated, his instincts screaming to deflect. "I've lived in a lot of places," he said carefully. "Picked things up." Ethan leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Don't play coy. Nobody picks up 9 languages mopping floors." "Who are you, really?" The question hung like a guillotine. Javier could lie, keep his head down, stay invisible. But something in Ethan's tone, a mix of curiosity and challenge, stirred a spark of defiance. "I'm just a janitor," he said, his voice steady. "But I listen. I learn. Always have." Ethan studied him, then gestured to a chair. "Sit. Tell me about Project Synergy. You read the memo. Didn't you?" Javier sat, his hands clasped. "I saw it in the trash. AI for multilingual negotiations. Right big contract. Tight deadline." Ethan's eyebrow arched. and Javier took a breath. Your team's struggling because AI can't handle cultural nuance. Mandarin isn't just words, it's tone, context. Same with Arabic, Hindi. You need someone who knows how people think in those languages, not just how they speak. Ethan leaned back, his fingers steepled. And you think you're that someone? I didn't say that, Javier replied, his tone even. But I could help. The room was silent, the hum of the AC the only sound. Ethan's mind raced. Javier was a wild card, untrained, untested, a janitor. But Project Synergy was bleeding money, and the board was breathing down his neck. Prove it, he said finally. You've got 1 week. Work with the engineering team. If you're as good as you seem, I'll make it worth your while. If you're wasting my time, you're out. Javier nodded, his face unreadable. Fair enough. The engineering floor was a different world open plan. Chaotic, with whiteboards, scribbled in code, and empty pizza boxes strewn about. The team, led by Claire Nguyen, a 29-year-old prodigy with a PhD from Caltech, was skeptical when Ethan introduced Javier. He's consulting on Synergy, Ethan said, ignoring their raised eyebrows. Give him what he needs. Claire crossed her arms, her sharp bob framing a frown. No offense. But what does a janitor know about NLP algorithms? Javier met her gaze, unfazed. Not much about algorithms. But I know why your AI keeps screwing up Arabic idioms. Want me to show you? The room went quiet. Claire hesitated, then gestured to a workstation. Fine. Impress me. Javier sat, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. He pulled up the AI's translation logs, scanning lines of code and output. Here, he said, pointing to a phrase in Arabic. Your system translates break the ice, literally, but in Arabic it's open the heart. Context matters. He typed a correction, his hands moving with surprising speed, then switched to a Mandarin example. Same issue. Your AI uses formal tones for casual settings. It's like sending a robot to a barbecue. Claire's frown softened, replaced by curiosity. How do you know this? I've lived it. Javier said simply, talk to people, not machines. By the end of the day, Javier had flagged dozens of errors, subtle missteps in Swahili proverbs, Hindi slang, Russian colloquialisms. The team, initially hostile, began to listen. Claire scribbled notes, her skepticism giving way to respect. You're not wrong, she admitted, pushing up her glasses. But this is just the start. Can you keep up? Javier smiled faintly. Try me. Word spread fast. By day 3, Javier was a mystery gripping apex. Engineers whispered about the janitor, who speaks 9 languages. Their tones a mix of awe and envy. The marketing team, led by a slick VP named Derek Holt, saw it differently. He's a liability, Derek muttered during a break room huddle. No degree, no pedigree. If he screws up Synergy, we're a laughingstock. Derek wasn't alone. The old guard executives who'd climbed the ladder through Ivy League degrees and nepotism bristled at Javier's presence. They cornered Ethan in a boardroom, their faces tight. You're betting our biggest project on a janitor, one demanded. The board's asking questions. Ethan, this isn't a feel-good stunt. Ethan held up a hand, his voice cold. Synergy was tanking before Javier. He's fixing what your golden boys couldn't. Results talk. Let him work. But Derek had other plans. He leaked Javier's personnel file to a tech blog, spinning a narrative of unvetted risk. The post went viral on X, tagged Apex Janitor, with comments ranging from genius or fraud to woke PR stunt gone wrong. Javier, unaware, kept working, his nights blurring into days as he debugged translations and coached engineers on cultural cues. On day 6, the pressure peaked. The Synergy demo was scheduled for the next morning, a live pitch to a Japanese conglomerate, streamed to investors worldwide. The AI still stumbled on Japanese honorifics, and Claire's team was fraying. Javier, bleary-eyed but focused, sat with them, explaining Kago levels. Your AI uses San for a CEO, he said. That's too casual. Use Zama for respect. It's not just grammar, it's power dynamics. Claire nodded, typing furiously. You're saving our asses. Javier. How'd you learn Japanese? Javier shrugged. Lived in Osaka for a year, worked in a noodle shop, listened to the locals. The team laughed, the tension easing. But outside, Derek was plotting. He slipped into the server room, tweaking the AI's dataset to insert errors subtle enough to tank the demo, but not traceable. If Javier failed, Ethan's gamble would collapse, and Derek's path to the C-suite would clear. The demo day arrived. The 17th floor conference room packed with suits and cameras. The Japanese execs sat stone-faced, their translator whispering notes. Ethan stood at the podium, his confidence masking nerves. Javier, in a borrowed blazer that didn't quite fit, sat in the back, his janitor's uniform folded in his locker. Claire shot him a thumbs up, her faith in him unshaken. The AI launched, projecting translations on a massive screen. It handled Mandarin flawlessly, then Swahili, Hindi, Arabic. The room buzzed with approval. Then came Japanese. The AI greeted the CEO with "San," a misstep that drew a frown from the execs. Ethan's smile faltered, his eyes darting to Javier. Javier's heart sank. He knew that error he'd fixed it. Someone had sabotaged the system. Without thinking, he stood, his voice cutting through the room. "Excuse me," he said, stepping to the podium. "There's a glitch. Allow me." Ethan froze, but Claire nodded, trusting him. Javier took the mic, addressing the CEO in flawless Japanese. "Zunjing Saru, Shechong, Yango Hubien wo okakeshite, monshiai gozaimasen." Honored President, I apologize for the inconvenience. He explained the project's vision, weaving in cultural references, a nod to Kaizen, a joke about ramen that drew a rare smile from the CEO. Then, in English, he outlined the fix, his words clear, commanding. The room was silent, then erupted in applause. The Japanese execs nodded, impressed. Ethan stared at Javier, his expression a mix of shock and gratitude. Derek, in the corner, paled, his sabotage exposed by Javier's quick thinking. After the demo, Ethan called Javier to his office. The deal was signed, synergy saved, and Apex's stock soared. "You're no janitor," Ethan said, sliding a contract across the desk. "Director of Cultural Strategy, $200K a year." You in, Javier studied the paper, his mind flashing to his mother's hospital bills, his kids' college funds. But he wasn't done. "One condition," he said. "Apex funds a language training program for all staff janitors, coders, everyone. Talents everywhere. You just have to listen." Ethan grinned, extending a hand. "Deal." The announcement hit Apex like a thunderbolt. Javier's promotion was emailed company-wide, his story shared on X with Apex Janitor, now a badge of pride. Derek was quietly fired after IT traced the sabotage to his login. The training program launched, with Javier teaching classes, his quiet wisdom reshaping the company's culture. Javier stood in the lobby a month later, no longer in a uniform but a suit that fit. Employees greeted him, some shy, some awestruck. He smiled, thinking of his journey from El Paso's streets to Osaka's noodle shops. From night shifts to this, Apex wasn't perfect, but it was listening. And so was he. Takeaway talent hides in plain sight. Listen closely, and the quietest voices can change everything.